You want to know how to execute Node.js code within a Jupyter notebook? Fear not, the genie of the EI lamp will fulfill your wish. Enjoy! Let's execute Node.js code within Jupyter. That will be useful for our next videos when playing with LLM APIs. Jupyter is an open source project coming from the data science domain. It allows to combine text, code, and code execution in single interactive documents that are called notebooks from the web browser. The names actually come from Julia, Python, and R coding languages that were originally supported as execution code. But since the community project, because it's open source, has been extended and it now supports many languages, as you can see on this page. So kernels are the way to execute codes within Jupyter, and you can see there are many of them available with C, C++, C Sharp, Go, Java, Lua, Perl, PHP, SQL, a lot of them. All right. What I want to use a JavaScript kernel, so I will install and use the iJavaScript kernel. It's also an open source project, compatible, of course. But before using Jupyter, we first have to install it, and we need a Python distribution because it's a Python-based tool. Just before, maybe a few words on Jupyter. It comes in two versions. There is the original version that I will use for the demo that is called Jupyter Notebook. It's the classical one with a single interface. And then there is a more elaborated one that looks more like an IDE now, with the multiple table ability to browse different notebooks at the same time and to have several windows, and also be able to browse within the organization of the folders. And it's also more extensible because of the concept of plugins and extension that allows to add and inject new capabilities into the tool. But for the sake of the demo, I prefer to use the Jupyter Notebook because it's all in one document, and it's easier to manipulate and to share also. All right. So as I said, we need to install a Python distribution. So I decided on my Windows box to install Anaconda, which is a well-known distribution coming from the data science domain also. It's open source, it's free, and we can download it. It's available on Windows, iOS, and Linux operating system. And after installing it, what is interesting is we can launch the Anaconda Navigator, which is basically a visual administration console where you can see all the top level applications that are available in this distribution. So I want to use, as I said, the Jupyter Notebook application. But before doing that, I need also to install some component to be able to run the stuff. So basically what I do is I will use the CMD prompt to execute the command on the environment, the pre-configured environment of Anaconda. Right? And when I launch this tool, then I run this command, conda install, from the CondaForge repository, and I want to install the Jupyter application. So Conda is basically a Python packet manager, just like pip or Poetry, if you know. And Anaconda is the visual part on top of Conda, of the Conda system. So when I run this command, then it will install Jupyter and all its dependencies. As soon as it's done, I relaunch my Anaconda Navigator console, and then I'm able to launch Jupyter from there. When doing so, then one page opens in my browser with the list. So it's basically navigating my local folders in my notebook folder on my hard drive. And here in my Gen AI lamp, I can create new notebooks. You can see the notebooks that are already ready here for use. But when I will create a new notebook, I decide here to choose between the two different kernels that I have, which is Python or JavaScript. We'll speak about the JavaScript kernel installation right now. Okay, so when I launch the notebook, then I just click on this link, and then it will open the notebook in another tab of my browser. All right. So when you see the interface of Jupyter Notebook, that's why I prefer this one for the tutorial. It's very easy and straightforward. You have different kind of cells. You have two types basically. The first one is text or markdown type. So if you double click on an existing cell, you see it's markdown formatting instruction here. So you can do anything you can do with markdown. So it's very powerful. You have links, pictures, titles, code, etc. All right, and when you run the cell, it will interpret the markdown and then display the final result. Okay, so here I just summarize what we just did. What is Jupyter Notebook about, the Anaconda distribution, the CMD prompt, and the command that we need to launch to install Jupyter. To install the JavaScript kernel, we do the same kind of thing. So using the same CMD prompt tool from the Anaconda console, and then you run those commands. So first we install Node.js, because the JavaScript kernel is running Node.js, so we need the Node.js execution environment. And then with npm, because we are on Node, we can now run the installation of JavaScript kernel, and then launch the installation process itself. As soon as it's done, then JavaScript kernel is available. So as I said, I did already create a notebook. So now, because I run Node.js code, I call it notebook instead of notebook. Okay. And you can see it's running a JavaScript kernel because of this icon and the name here you have. All right. And the other kind of code that of cell that you can have in a notebook is code. All right. And then you just write JavaScript code that you can run and execute, and then the result will be displayed. But first, something to remember and to be aware of is in the JavaScript code that we put in those cells, do not use let or const instruction. Why? Because this code can be executed multiple times, and you can even execute different cells in different order, because you can run all the cells, including the code ones, with this instruction, but you can do also step by step, or you can jump to any cell and then click on run. So if you have const declared, then you will get errors. So that's not something that we want right now. So what we do is we don't use that, and we use var to be safe from that point of view. All right. We also have to customize the environment with a few instructions here, because in the Python original kernel there is magic commands that are very useful to communicate with the execution environment, the Python execution environment. And then you can install new packages with pip, poetry, or conda, for instance. In high JavaScript kernel, it's not exactly the same. There is a magic patch that proposed to solve that, but I was not able to make it properly function on my environment. So what I did instead, inspired by an example that I found on the internet, I just create my own JavaScript function to be able to run shell command and get the result. Okay, so what I do here, so I am in a code type of cell, all right, and I run the instruction here. So no result is displayed because it's only declaration, but there you can see 1. So it means that that's the first JavaScript instruction that is run in this notebook on this kernel. All right. So now I need a few other packages to be able to then move on the API call. The first one is the ESM hook, so coming from the npm repository, that allows to use ESM modules with zero setup, and that's the way to import, require, and use modules from JavaScript notebook. Okay, so I will call it I will use the sh function that I just created to run the npm install ESM hook and then require it. Okay, so I run it. Now, what you can see here, you see a star. So it means that the cell is being executed. It's taking a little bit of time because we have to run the npm command, so require the repository, and then I see that my ESM hook module is already installed on my environment. Okay. Now let's move on. Because we've installed all the prerequisite, we're now in a notebook now. We have a JavaScript kernel available. We did install ESM hook, so I want to make an API call, let's say to OpenAI. So the use and the discovery of the OpenAI API is not the subject of this tutorial, but I just want to illustrate. And then we'll go in further detail on how to play and run API calls in a new video. Here, what I want to illustrate is just like the fact that first, we also use the .env npm package just to store my API key, my OpenAI API key in a local .env file. So what I do here, again, I install the .env package and then I will require it and load the key into memory in my execution environment. Because you understood, the whole notebook is one execution environment on Node.js. So now the .env package is already installed. Okay, so I did load my API key, and now what I can do is to start using the OpenAI APIs. But to do that, I decided also to install the OpenAI official OpenAI library for Node.js. Okay, so again, I call my sh function and install the npm package. It's already installed. Good. And now finally I run my JavaScript code from the last cell. So requiring the OpenAI official library, I just use two different objects. The first one is a configuration where I send my GPT OpenAI security key from my .env file. Okay, and then I instantiate a new OpenAI object. I pass the configuration as parameter, and then I am able to make an asynchronous call to this create chat completion property or function of the OpenAI object. What I do here, I just pass as parameters the model, the name of the model that I want to use, so it would be GPT-4, and the message, the context, the prompt that I sent to the model. It's a very basic one, just one message of type user, and the question is why the sky is blue. All right, and then waiting, because I'm in asynchronous mode, for the answer from the model, then I navigate within the object that is returned to display the result. All right. Now let's run this code. So you see the promise, then the LLM is questions, and here is the answer. So the sky is blue because of the Rayleigh scattering effect. Okay, let's run it a second time. So you can see that we can run cells multiple times. That's why the var and not the const or let instruction. And you see the answer is slightly different. I mean, the general meaning of it is the same, but because we are speaking with LLMs, it's non-deterministic computing. Okay. All right, so that's it for today. Just an illustration of how to use Jupyter notebooks to play with APIs, and in the following videos we'll start to play with OpenAI, with Vertex, Google APIs, and so on. All right, thank you. And that's it for now. Keep making wishes, and maybe the Gen AI's lamp will fulfill them. Stay tuned. Bye.